Hi, in this video, I will show you how to use the action class in Selenium Web Drivers. So first of all, why do we need to use the action class if the Selenium is already there? So the reason is that Selenium, the action class is used to manage the mouse and keyboard events. And these events, these tasks usually consist of one or more than one task at the same times. It usually consists of one or two activities at the same time with the that cannot be achieved with the Selenium. For example, drag and drop. This is two activities, right? First we drag and then we drop. And then in the same way, there are some other method that in Selenium WebDriver, for example, like double click, like right click, right? Right click, context click, double click. So these are the methods that can only be accomplished by using the action class. We cannot rely only on Selenium to achieve these action. So these are some other methods like move to the elements, release. We have some keyboards events that I will show you in this tutorial. For example, we have the send keys, key up and key down. I will show you how you can use the action class in Selenium WebDriver. So to put it into the summary, why do we use the action class? Because sometimes we need to use the action class. There are some activities in automation testing that can only be accomplished using the action class. And these certain activities, they usually consist of two, more than one function, more than one action. It's not only one. So let me actually show you. All right. So I will be using this website. Okay. I will be using this website to demonstrate the action class. So let's say that let's say this element, right? This element when the mouse is over here, you see that this is a typical mouse symbol, but when you move over this, now it's a hand, right? So it changes. This elements you need to move the mouse over it and then click on it, right? It's not going to work directly by clicking. So how we can do that? Let's find this element. So if I find that interaction, how I can find it, I can use this text, right? I can use this text, and the h5 is the tag name, right? I can say h5, and then what I'm going to use the class, right? I'm going to use the class, and sorry, the text, and we should all right, so there is 45 instead of 5. All right, so now we located this element, and let's copy that. Actually, before that, let me see that I need to create a new class for this action class. I'm going to call this action demo. Okay, so name this action demo. Now we need the main method. And also, I will copy some basic code that we need for our drivers. So this is for our drivers that we don't need to write it again because this is very basic. And let me actually take care of this error. All right, so now this is ready. And as I said, we want to click on this interaction element, and we located the element. And let's actually use that. So what we need to do, let's call this interactions, right? Call this interaction, and then we're going to use by XPath, right? So because we use XPath, all right, so we use that XPath. What I need here. Okay, so in order to use the action class and make sure that it comes from, as you see, org openqa.selenium.interaction. Make sure that's from the Selenium, because we have action class, because we have action that comes from other classes that it's not going to work. Okay, make sure that this is the action class, and we need to create an object of this actions, and then we need to pass the driver, right? Pass the driver and the action class constructor. And now what we need to do, as I said, we need to, first of all, we need to move, right? We need to move to that element. What element? That interaction, right? After you move to that element, then you can then you can click on it, right? You can click on it. And now you have to use whenever there is more than two tasks, for example, one task is to move, the other task is to click. Then you have to use the build, right? To build this. And then you need to use the perform, okay? You need to use the perform. So right now I want to use some weight so that you guys can see that, because it's pretty fast, right? I'm gonna put 5 seconds. This weight is static weight, is not recommended. I'm just using this for demonstration. Try to avoid that in the real framework in your job if you can. So it's not recommended to use this weight. All right. So now after waiting 5 seconds, then I close it. I need to add the method signature to take care of the exception. And then let me run this. Okay, let's run this. Okay, so what's going on here? All right, didn't click on it. I know what's the problem. The problem is that the element is hidden. We need to do a little bit of scroll. So this is the JavaScript executor interface. I'm using this as executed script and to scroll down the page. So if you don't know JavaScript executor interface, there is a separate video that they can go and watch. All right, so let's run this again. First, we need to scroll and then click on that interaction element, okay? So now it opens up the page and it's supposed to scroll, okay? And now it opens. You see that? Because the interaction element was closed. All right, so as you see that, this is the way that you can move to the element and then click on it. This can be only accomplished by action. You can also use the JavaScript to click. JavaScript also is used to click the heading element, tricky element. You know, sometimes you need specific JavaScript code to run it. But this tutorial is about the action class. All right. So then what we need to do, let's let's use the drag and drop method, right? So we have a drag and drop method in Selenium, in action class. So after clicking on this, and then we need another scroll. Okay, we need another scroll to go down here and click on this droppable, right? Click on this droppable. So let's actually find this element for this. This is droppable, and we got this text. Okay, we got this text. Let's find this text. I already have text over here. I just paste it, and I need to change that tag name to span, right? Because this is a span. And what I need to do is say span. Okay, so there you go. We located this element, and now what we need to store that, or we can directly use, or we can store it, right? So let's actually store this, and I'm going to use what was the element? It was droppable, right? Droppable. Find element by XPath. Let's paste that. All right, so we find this element. As you remember, first we need to do another scroll because the element is all the way down so that we can see. Before we do that, anything, we are going to scroll, but this time I don't want to scroll. I want to scroll 500, right? 500 pixel. Okay. So now that we find this, what we need to do with this, okay? What we need to do, again, we need to click on this, right? So we need to click on this, move to the element, let's say droppable, and after droppable, I'm gonna click on it. Again, we need to use the build.perform. So, all right, so after we click on this, and this is open, now we need to drag this and drop it into the box, right? So let's actually find this also. So this is this has an ID called draggable, right? And the name is drag me. Remember that name because we will use the same name, and I will name this drag me. And then what I need to use and I use ID, right? Because the ID was draggable. Okay, so now we also need to use the other one, and it was drop me. think it was drop me the name, right? So was find element, and well, we need to use ID, and let's actually find that. I believe that that's also ID. Drop here. All right, so this is also as ID droppable, right? But let's make sure that this is the ID that we are looking for. So what we need to use, yeah, there are 3 of them, but we just want to make sure that this is the one that we are looking for, okay? All right, so let's see again what we can do about this to make it unique. All right, just want to make sure that, all right, so we can use div. Let's use a div tag name. And then what I'm going to use the ID. All right, so I forgot to do this. All right, so now there are 3 of them. What you need to do, you need to surround the entire thing with a parenthesis. This is the technique that I use. You need to surround this with a parenthesis, opening parenthesis at the beginning and the closing parenthesis at the end. Then you can use a bracket, right? Now inside the bracket, you can decide which one you want. For example, we want number 1, okay? We want number 1. All right, so let's try this. And this is expat. And this was called drop me or drop it here. Doesn't matter. Okay. So, we are going to use what? We are going to use expat, right? We're not going to use the ID. All right. So now that we located this element, what we need to do, as I told you, there is another method, and this is called drag and drop. Drag and drop has 2 parameters. The name is pretty straightforward, right? It drag the element first. Drag me this element. We want to drag this, and we want to where we want to drop it. We want to drop it right here in the next element in that box. And now we need to do what? We need to say bell.perform. Okay. All right. So let's actually run this. All right. So it dragged the element and drop it over there. All right. So now actually let me show you one really good example. Like right now, we want to get the color of this. Okay. Now the color of this is white. And after you drag it, it becomes the different color, right? So let's say that in case you want to verify this, you want to assert this, you want to make sure that it works, then in that case, you can actually can do that, right? How we can do that, for example, let's go back. What we can do, let's say, as I told you before we drag it, right? So this is the drop in, this is the box. Before we drop it, we are going to get the color, okay? So how we can get the color? We can get the color, for example, we can say, let's call this color, right? Let's call this color, and then what we need to do, as I said, drop me dot get CSS value, Inside that, you can say background dash color, okay? Then this one gets the color from this Dropbox. Let me show you. It's gonna get from this color of this one, okay? And what else we need to do? Now that we get the color, let's actually display this color, okay? How we can display this color? We can say that, let's call this color, or let's actually say before drag and drop, right? And I'm gonna have the color, okay? So if you want to actually get the color after drag and drop, then in that case we can say, for example, we can say color 2, and then what again we are going to use the same method and drop me dot get CSS value. We are going to use the same background dash color, okay? Background dash color. And right now, what we need to do, we need to also say that after drag and drop, okay? And now we are gonna have the color too. Okay, so now let's in case you want to know that you want to confirm that you want to verify that the drag and drop is successful, right? So in that case we can do this. All right, so let's run this again. Okay, drag. All right, so let's run this again because I for some reason I didn't see how that happened. Let's run this again. Okay, so what's going on? I think something is not right. Let's see. We got that the drop me get CSS value background color, right? And we play that. Then after that, we got the second color. All right, so let's see that if there is any misspelling or something like that. Background dash color, background dash color. Okay, color two, drop me dot CSS. Okay, drop me. Let's do this. Let's actually use the here instead of the XPath, I'm gonna use the ID. Okay, let's use the ID and change that to ID. Okay, now let's run this again. Okay, so what is going on over here? Background color, build.perform, drag and drop, string a color to drop me that gives this value, drop. Okay, so let's actually see that if there is any error with this. So I'm gonna comment this out again, just to make sure that they are not. Let's run this again. Okay, so something is going on with this too. So we can say that drop me that get CSS value, and this is a background dash color, and we have, I don't know why this one is giving us a hard time. I mean, this is supposed to work, right? Because I don't see any error with this. There is no error. I don't know why this is so let's run this again. There you go. Okay. All right. So for some reason, I don't know, it didn't work for the first time, but now we see that the first time before the drag and drop, this was the color 00. It was white, right? And after that, this is the color that it's RGBA color. It has 4 parameter, and this is the different color, right? So now we can make sure that it was successful. All right. So I just want to also point it out that there is also another way that you can use the drag and drop. Okay, you can. There is another way that you can use drag and drop. So how we can use the drag and drop? So let's say that I want to click on this accept, right? I want to click on this accept. And what I need to do here, let's find this accept. Okay, I need to, because I need to click on this first. So it has an ID. I'm gonna get that ID. And let's actually store that first of all. Let me actually say that second way to do drag and drop, right? Okay. So let me actually call this what we are gonna call accept driver find element. Then we have the what? We have the ID. We are gonna use ID, right? So ID, oops, I had a character by accident. And now after we had it, what we need to do, we need to again move to the element, and then we are gonna pass accept. After we move to the element, we are gonna click on it, and then we build on it and we perform on it, right? So this is basically only click on the accept, right? This is clicks on the accept. Okay, so after we click on the accept, there is another drag and drop, right? So now we need to, let's say we want to accept that. Let's actually accept, find this acceptable. Okay, find this acceptable. And I'm going to use for this ID expat. All right, so let's find it. Okay, we find this. And we need to go back to, and we are going to call this acceptable, right? Acceptable. Where I find element, and I'm going to use the expat. Let's paste this. So I find this successfully, and let's actually find the other one. And we need to find this one as well. And this is the ID droppable, right? Let's actually use that ID droppable, or we can, let me actually make sure that this is ID is, let's make sure that this is unique, because sometimes they have the same ID. So there are 3 of them. And now again, we need to surround the entire thing with a parenthesis at the beginning, parenthesis at the end. And now we are going to use this bracket. And inside the bracket, we can decide which one we want. We don't want number 1 because this doesn't match. Number 2, this is the one that we are looking for, right? So let's copy that. And we need to go back to our, and what we are going to call this, what was the name? And it was drop here, right? So let's call this drop here. All right, drop here, driver find element by expat. And now we paste the value that we just find it. All right, so now we find this, and as I said, there's another method in Selenium that you can use to drag and drop. So what is this method? Of course, there is not only one method. There is more than one method that you're going to use. So we are going to use the action class again. And now what we need to do, we need to click and hold. So this one, click and hold on the element. We are going to use acceptable, right? So after you click and hold, let me show you. So this is the way you click and hold on this, right? Now we can move this, click and hold. Now I say that click and hold. What else I need to do, right? So after I click and hold, then I say that move to the element. Where should I move? And I say that drop here, then I drop here. And then what should I do? I can say that what I can say, I can release, right? After releasing, you need to build and you need to perform. All right, so this is basically the same thing as the drag and drop, but as you can see, we use the click and hold, we use move to element, and we use release. There are three methods that we use to perform the drag and drop. All right, so let's run this. So this was about the first element, okay, and second, and it drag and drop into there, and it said dropped. You see that it says dropped. All right, so this one also was successful, and let's continue, doing some more method over here. And now, what we need to do, let's say that after this, we want to do what? What are the methods we can use over here? For example, let me open up the website. After this, we want to click on this element, right? So let's find this element. Let's find this. Okay, so we are going to use this text, right? Let's actually use this text to find this element. What we need to do, because it doesn't have specific tag, we are going to put a star text and value that. All right, so we find this, right? Let's copy that, store our element. All right, so this is called element driver. Keep the driver find by expat, and let's actually do this. So again, what we want to do, again, we want to just click on this, right? We want to click on this, but we need to pass our parameter click. And then what we need to do is let's build this and perform this. Okay. So now after we click on this, what else we want to do when we click on this? We want to click on this text box, right? We want to click on this text box. Let's actually find the text box as well. Text box is the same. We just need to just copy that and paste it here because it's using the text as well, right? So now we have text box. Let's copy that. Go back over here and we are going to type this text box, okay? And we are going to use expat. We'll paste it. All right, so after we click on the text box, what we need to do with this one, we also need to click on it, right? Action dot click, and we're going to pass text box dot build dot perform. Of course, these are also, we can use the click method in Selenium, but I just want to use everything in action because this tutorial is about the action class. All right, so after we click on this text, now what we want to do, okay, what else we want to do? So let's say that we want to enter our name, right? We want to enter our name. So this one is the name. I copy this ID. And let's actually run this. Just want to make sure that, okay, this is unique. And I copy that ID. I'm going to put that as a name, right? So let's call this full name driver dot find element, and I'm going to use the ID, right? So copy this ID. All right. So now we find this ID. Okay, we find this ID, and now what we want to do over here, okay? What we want to do. So let's say that we want to send our name in uppercase, right? Maybe in some test scenario, you're required to send the text in uppercase. Of course, there are a lot of ways, but you can also use the action class to perform this action, right? So how we can do that? For example, again, you're going to use the action class and you're going to use a method called key down, okay? So key down, You want to use the key down, and then you want to use this method for which element? We can say for this element, right? For this element. And what you want to do, let's say here, we want to hold the shift key, right? This is basically means that you want to hold the shift key. Okay, while you want to hold the shift key, what do you want to do? I want to send some text and holding the shift key at the same times. Send keys, where do you want to send this key? I want to send this key to file name. And what is your text? For example, I can say, this is my text. Ellery, let's say Clinton, right? So let's say that I want to send this, and I want to send this in a uppercase, right? So what I need to do, I need to build dot perform. Okay, I need to build dot perform. All right, so let's try this. All right, so now we go to the elements. Well, it's supposed to go to the elements. Come on. So what's going on here now? Why it's not clicking on the elements? So let's see what's going on, okay? All right, let's actually go back to our IDE. So we find this element driver bot dial expat, and then we want to do click.perform.build.action. We want to click on this, and then we want to click on the text box. So everything looks pretty good. So let's run this again, because sometimes the script, just for no reason, it doesn't work, right? So let's give it another shot and see that what's going on. Okay. So this is the previous test cases that we already wrote, and click on the element. Actually, it clicked on the element, and then it didn't click on the text box, right? Something going on with this text box because it didn't click on the text box. All right, so let's go back and see that text box. Okay, yeah, so we missed that there is a 1/ for some reason. It's supposed to be 2, right? That's why it wasn't working. So let's try this again. Yeah, sometimes there are small details that is missing, and then it messes up the entire script. All right, so this should work this time. All right, so now it's supposed to click on the elements, click on the, okay, click on the element, click on the text box. There you go. Now, as you can see, the Hillary Clinton typed in uppercase, right? The name here is lowercase, but so here what we need to do, what is that? This is the method that we just need to use it to send the text into the uppercase. This is pretty simple, right? So we need to, this is keys.shift, meaning that all the shift, right? And where do you want to use this? I want to use this with the file name text field, right? And then I want to send the key. And where do you want to send the key? I want to send the key to this text field, right? This file name. And what text you want to send? I want to send this text. Okay, so let's, in the same way, let's actually use another use one of these other boxes. Let's say that you want to use this text box, right? So you want to use this text box, and this text box as an ID, right? This text box as an ID. So let's copy this and go back to, let's call this current address, and then we are gonna driver.find element by ID. Let's bring that. All right, so what we want to do with this, all right, what we want to do with this, we can say that I action dot key down. All right, key down. Where do you want to use this key down? I'm going to use it on the current address, right? So I want to use it on the current address. And what do you want to do? What keys you want to use? I want to use keys dot, again, shift, right? Keys shift. Okay, And so you want to use the key shift. And what you want to do with this? Let's say that I want to send some text, and where do you want to send it again? You need to specify. I want to use it in the current address, and what text you want to use. Let's say that I want to use this text, right? This is my current address, let's say, okay? Address. Then what I want to do, I want to go to the next line after this, okay? I want to go to the next line. We use the \n to go to the next line. So then what I want to do is I want to use the key app, right? So I want to use key app. So in that case, I'm going to use key app. And where do you want to use this key app method? I want to use it on the current address. And again, which key you want to use? I want to use keys.shift, right? So I want to use keys.shift. And so how do you want to use this key? I want to send keys, right? I want to use send keys. So let's say that, let's just pick up a random address. Brandon, let's say, Court. Let's say that Waterville, New York. This is just a random address, right? Okay, so this is the address. All right, and now what I want to do after this, I want to double click on it, okay? I want to double click, and after I double click, I want to context click. I want to right click on it, right? What else I want to do? That's it. I don't want to do anything. And then I use the build and perform. So this two method, this one actually should be typed in all in uppercase, and then here is the key down, right? We press the key. Here is the key up. The key is not pressed. Okay. Again, whenever we use the key down, we have to use key up because the key is not pressed anymore. And then we are using this text. And the next line, we added a new line. This text should be sent in regular because the key is up right now. The key is not down. It's not holding. And then we double click and we right click. Okay, so let's run the entire thing. All right, so there you go. Now it entered this is my current address in uppercase, and then the rest of this in lowercase. All right, so that's it about the action class. I think that we cover most of the methods that comes from the action class, such as drag and drop, move to the element, click, right, double click, right click, and also, of course, typing some keyboard events like typing in uppercase and lowercase. And what other thing I'm thinking about to do is to perform these activities like separately, right? I just want to see that if I can perform these activities separately so that you guys can see that, okay? So let's see that I am, this one is basically what we do over here is to type, let's say, a string in uppercase and lowercase, right? So this is the last method that we use. And what I need to do, I'm gonna actually comment this out, the last one. Okay, so I comment the last one, and also I want to comment this one, okay? And then this is the first text, this is the first test case, right? So what we were doing here is pretty simple. This does a drag and drop, right? It opens up the web page, it clicks on the interaction, and then again it scrolls, click on the droppable, the droppable, then it performs a drag and drop. So let's actually run this first scenario, which we are performing a drag and drop. Okay. All right, so this is the first case that we were planning to do, which is basically a simple drag and drop. And what method here we use to do the drag and drop? Okay, so what method we use? Let me see. We are using the drag and drop that comes from the action class, right? So let me see that. So we're going to click on the interaction and we are going to scroll down and then we click on a droppable. So we are going to need by this part because it needs to click on a droppable. And then the rest of these is, I believe that we can comment out, right? We can comment out to display the second one. So let's see that hopefully I didn't miss anything. I didn't comment out some necessary parts. Because if I commented out some parts that is related to this case, then it will not work. So let's see what happens. This one is also drag and drop, but as I said, it's using a different method. Move to the element, click and hold, move to the element, and release, right? There are three methods that we use to perform a drag and drop, right? So as you can see that we commented out some element by accident. So let's, I don't know which one, but we need some element. I believe this is the one because we need to click on droppable. So let's run that again. It always happened that whenever I commented out a portion of the code to run a specific portion, then I usually by accident, I comment out some related document. All right. So let's see this time. Okay. So far it's successful. And let's see. Okay, unfortunately, again, I believe that I did the same mistake. So let's actually get rid of all the comment and run the entire test case, right? Run the entire test case. I mean, this is inside the same class. There is no different test cases, but there are different methods. And these methods all from action class. All right, so this was successful. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.